Hey guys, welcome to another My Life with ADHD. It's been a while. So today's topic is ADHD and running a Kickstarter, which I know a lot of you are comic artists or you would like to make comics, or you are in a field where Kickstarter is a very strong probability for your career. So I think this is probably a really timely topic. I'm not here to tell you like 100% how to do things because I don't know 100% how to do things. I'm going to share my experiences. I'm going to talk about the areas where I kind of fell short, and I'm going to talk about the areas where I needed some help. So right now I am kickstarting the second volume of my webcomic, 7-Inch Kara. It is a really cute story about a 7-inch tall little girl named Kara. She is coded to have ADHD, so she's gregarious, she's outgoing, she's very impulsive, and sometimes she says things she shouldn't say. And I wanted to write her with a lot of ADHD positivity. I wanted her to have all the traits that I actually liked about myself because I wanted other people, when they read her, to see that and maybe love those traits in themselves. So I am kickstarting the second volume of that, and it's over on Kickstarter.com. No, sorry, give you my short link. 7inchkara.com/Kickstarter, and I'll put a link in the description, in the cards, and in the end cap in case you guys want to check it out. It really means a lot to me, especially if you're looking for some positive ADHD rep. Speaking of ADHD, one of my 30 alarms was going off in case you guys heard the buzz. So I don't want to spend this whole my life with ADHD shilling my ADHD comic. I really want to talk more about the process of it and how much help I needed, and just kind of all of that. So I also want to mention I have an anxiety problem. You can probably hear it in my voice sometimes when I'm streaming or when I'm doing vlogs. Anything that requires me putting myself more out there can sometimes ramp that anxiety up. And my relationship with the online comic community has had its ups and downs. I don't want to like go super into it. I always try to be friendly, but there have been periods of time when my depression was really bad or my anxiety was really bad, and I know I didn't always respond to things as well as I could have, and it's something I've been working on over the past like 4 years, and things have gotten a lot better. But when I launched my Kickstarter, I was really legitimately concerned that there was no way I was going to be able to reach my goal. We're trying to reach 7,500, and that is to print volume 2 through an offset printer. So that's kind of a substantial cost right there, and I know that's a lot of money. And even though I've been on Twitter for 10 years, and I've been working on Kara for almost as long, and I've had the Natto Soup blog for 10 years, and I've been here on YouTube for 4 years now, and when I was involved with How to Be a Con Artist, I was involved for 4 years. Even though I had all those things, I never really built up the kind of audience I felt like I needed to be confident launching a Kickstarter. Now, in the past, I've talked about Patreon, and I feel like I've been incredibly fortunate with Patreon. I don't have a ginormous Patreon. I'm not making like $2,000 a month like some people are. I'm making under $200 a month. However, the people who support my Patreon are very consistent. They're very generous. They're very patient with me. And those people, that community, gave me the confidence I needed for the Kickstarter, because I kept waiting for the right time. I kept waiting for me to feel like I was getting all the right signs, I was getting all the right feedback, for me to feel like my art was well received. And I was never really getting that time. Like, for example, my videos, right? Like, they don't really break the triple digits, you know? Like, this is still such a really small YouTube channel, even though I've been doing this for so long, and even though every time I stream, someone new comes in and is like, you should be more popular, and it's like, ha ha ha, if you tell people, I might. So that had a lot to do with like kind of wrecking my self-confidence, like to put work out for so long and for it to never really grow, for the comments on my work to always be like maybe 1 or 2 comments, the retweets on my work to be maybe 2 retweets from the same people who are always so generous with sharing their space. It kind of like eroded away at my self-confidence, and I was like, there is no way I'm going to be able to reach that funding goal for 7-Inch Kara. So the Patreon helped a lot, and then doing the weekly streams helped somewhat, but not as much as you would think. And it just, you know, it just became time. It became time to kind of, I'm trying to think of how to say this phrase, poop or get off the pot, as my mom would say, to pull the trigger, and either it succeeds or it fails. And if it fails, then I really need to rethink all the work I've put into my online life. And it could still fail. We're still in early days. I think I'm at 2,500, which is like a solid third of where I want to be. But it's not there yet. And, you know, things could completely peter out. I mean, so please don't take this as like advice from somebody who's successfully made the goal, because it's not. It's still early. But I thought now was a good time to kind of talk about this, because it ties in with so many of my ADHD issues, and it ties in with so many of my anxiety issues, and everything's still very fresh in my mind, and all the work we've done is still very fresh in my mind. And I'm afraid that if I wait until it's over, whether it's going to completely bias how I feel, right? If it fails, I'm going to be really depressed. I'm going to be really hard on all the work that I did. And if it succeeds, I'm afraid I might underplay how much work went into it, because you know how your brain gets those endorphins, the endorphins, and you kind of gloss over all the pain points, and you're like, I could totally do this again tomorrow. Maybe that's just me, but anyway, I wanted to talk about so many things about the Kickstarter. So let's go ahead and dive into that. So let's talk about some of the back-end work that goes into having a Kickstarter, like, I don't know, laying out the book. So usually when I'm laying things out, I do it in Affinity Publisher. It's a stripped down program. It doesn't have a lot, and it's great for zines. You can just get it done. But we laid volume 1 out in InDesign. We'd hired a friend to do it, and this time we wanted to do it ourselves. So Joseph did most of the laying out for me, and that is phenomenal, because I know you guys know what I'm talking about, but really boring, repetitive tasks that take a certain amount of skill and a certain amount of familiarity with something that you might have no familiarity with, and require an eye for nuance, are very painful for some of us. And at that period of time, my anxiety, yeah, but my ADHD was like really through the roof, like talking about like strap myself in and hold on to the chair, because I'm just trying to exist throughout the day. So I'm really fortunate that he laid out most of the book for me, which was like dropping in comic pages, but there was still a lot of stuff that only I could do, like writing the body text, or creating the making 7-inch Kara section, or determining where we needed extra illustrations and putting those in. So apparently I did that entirely wrong, and like super badly goofed, and Joseph had to redo all of it. So I am super fortunate that I have a partner who is so generous with his time and is fairly familiar with the materials, and is probably not ADHD, because if it was 2 of us with ADHD trying to get through this, I feel like we wouldn't really get through this. I don't know. Anyway, so laying out the book took a while. It took like 4 weeks. And there was a point where I was like spending like 6 hours on it every day, but a lot of it was generating new assets, or writing a lot of body copy, or finding images from like videos that I'd done, and collecting those images and adjusting them and cropping them so that they were print worthy. So laying out the book was kind of a big pain point for me, and it's one of the reasons, it's a big reason why I've always wanted to work with a traditional publisher and kind of move out of self-publishing, is that so many of the areas that I really struggle with are areas that a publisher handles, and so many of the areas that I'm really good at are areas that if you were working with a publisher, that would be the artist's job, but when you're self-publishing, it's all your job. So, you know, laying out the book was definitely work. It was work, you know, like it was like 9 to 5 data entry work, if you know what I mean. Like, so that took a lot of like forcing myself to do it, which is kind of surprising, because I thought I was going to be really excited about it, but because I was combating so much anxiety and depression at the time, it was really like pushing through that in order to actually get the work done. So when it was finally finished, finally mostly laid out, there's still some corrections that we need to do. Joseph sent it off to CreateSpace to print the proof copies of it so that we could make further corrections. And I gotta like caveat big time here. Joseph has been running point on all of this, okay? I'm really, really fortunate that I have somebody who's willing to do that. A lot of people with ADHD do not. You can hire Kickstarter consultants. You can hire people to edit your book for you. You can hire people who have run a Kickstarter before to help walk you through the ropes. You can hire people who have done self-publishing to act as consultants. That is all out there. It exists on Twitter. You have to pay for it because their time is worth something. Their experience is worth something, and they deserve compensation. But you can pay for that. You can hire people to help you with that. So while I have that very, very fortunately in-house, I have someone who wants to see this project succeed. You can pay somebody to want to see this project succeed. So it isn't like completely impossible. In fact, I would recommend it if your ADHD manifests the way mine does, if you have anxiety and depression issues, having somebody help you is a big deal. And this also isn't my first, I mean, it's my first personal Kickstarter, but I'm not new to Kickstarter. I've been helping friends run their campaigns since Kickstarter launched. I've been doing promotion for people since Kickstarter launched. I've been doing consultations for like image and social media since like 2015. So I'm not new to Kickstarter. I'm just new to doing all of the work in the Kickstarter myself. So, and I'm not even doing all of it myself because I have somebody who's helping me out a whole lot. So that's something else to consider. Like if you are 100% new to Kickstarter, you've never backed any, you've never run any, my first suggestion is back one and watch how they run their campaign. Pay attention to when they launch, when they put updates, what's in their story, the text information, what's in their video, how they're presenting their work, how finished their work is, because a comic Kickstarter is very different from a text Kickstarter. In that a comic Kickstarter is usually run by someone who drew the comic or wrote the comic, someone who is very invested, very involved in the comic itself. Sometimes you even get people who are publishing comics who are running a Kickstarter, but it's always people who are very familiar with the material and know how to make it. Whereas a lot of the tech Kickstarters are run by marketing firms that are very good at getting you to open your wallet and spend money, and they don't have any tech experience at all, and they plan on hiring someone else to do that for them later on. So I think that's an important distinction because people who aren't necessarily familiar with Kickstarter but watch a lot of YouTube have probably seen a lot of Kickstarter fail videos, and it's a lot of tech stuff. But you don't see comic projects on the fails because comic projects are actually fairly straightforward to deliver. So with Kara, I waited until volume 2 was done. And I mean, we laid it out. We have some type setting things to correct, and we have some color correction to do, and I have 8 pages of 4 coma comics to draw, and that's it. It's done. Whereas like with a tech project, they might have nothing but a 3D image and a prototype that may or may not work because Kickstarter requires you to have a viable prototype. And my proof acts as a viable prototype. It's a good proof of concept that, you know, what I want to do can exist, and it's feasible, and it's within my realm. So for volume 1, I went with CreateSpace, and I didn't run a Kickstarter, and I did very little promotion that I launched it, like realistically very little promotion. And I coincided its launch with MochaFest. That was its debut, MochaFest 2014. And I was kind of disappointed in how it did because I was expecting a lot more. So for volume 2, I'd had lots of chances to kind of mitigate my expectations, but I'd also had a lot of time to do a lot of cons and hopefully build up an audience. Unfortunately, in-person conventions do not build up an online audience, and often vice versa. But I also had time to do more on the YouTube channel and more on the blog and kind of evolve who I am and what I've been involved in, and evolve what Kara is. In fact, between the launch of Volume 1 and the Kickstarter launch, I launched Kara as a webcomic to hopefully grow that audience and find people who might enjoy it. And speaking of, if you're looking for a relaxing read this afternoon, you can read the first 6 chapters of 7-Inch Kara for free at 7inchkara.com. And that'll kind of let you know if you like the project. But anyway, so we sent it, Joseph fought with CreateSpace really because they were having like site outages and they were having problems uploading the PDF that we had generated of the book and of the cover. Like, even the cover wouldn't load. And it took 4 days of him fighting with that to get it to work. So that's something else you need to be aware of if you're kickstarting or publishing your own project, is there's going to be a lot of, like, for a lot of us ADHD people, we always assume we're the problem, we're the mistake. And having been engaged to somebody who works in tech for, you know, we've been together for, we're getting married on our 11th anniversary, so we've been together for a while. I've learned that tech fails a lot more than you would think, and websites fail a lot more than you would think, and uploading systems fail a lot more than you would think. So I'm very comfortable now, like, shooting an email, like, hey, we're having upload problems, this is what's going on, can you look into it? But before Joseph, I would have assumed it was just me. I would have assumed that I was just goofing something somewhere, who knows? But eventually, through a lot of persistence, I mean, he was constantly trying to upload that file, we were able to get it up. We were able to get it through the approval process. We were able to get it printed so that we had physical copies. And one of the things Joseph wanted to do is he wanted to send it to Diamond so that it could, if they accept the book, which we haven't heard back yet, they could still deny it, but fingers crossed, we would be able to sell it to comic shops, because Diamond is a comic distributor. Comic shops would be able to order this adorable comic about two girls becoming friends in Louisiana summer. So he handled most of that. I mean, I think I addressed the envelope and I stuffed the envelope, but he handled most of it. So I am really very fortunate to have somebody who is so organized and also believes in my work so much. Like, that is so huge, y'all. Y'all probably understand 100%. So, next was, like, the big Kickstarter, right? Like, and it had gotten really built up in my head. So, there are two main points I think you should pay the most attention to, and then there's some subpoints. You have what's known as the story. This is the body of your Kickstarter, and then you have your Kickstarter video, and both of them are important. So me, as someone who's backed like 72 Kickstarter projects now, I gotta admit, I very rarely watch the video and I very rarely read the story, because I back a lot of people who I know through webcomic circles, or I've read their webcomic for a while, or I know them from Twitter. So I'm already very familiar with their work. I'm very familiar with them. I know they produce the work they say they produce, and I believe they're trustworthy. So it's me just reading tiers to find what rewards I want. So, and I've been talking to a lot of my other comic friends, and apparently they're very similar. But not everybody's going to be a comic person, especially if you do kidlit stuff like I do, or if you do like cross-genre stuff, like if you do horror, you're going to be getting horror like prose fans too who might be interested in your graphic novel. So the story and the video are really important, because those are for people who either don't know your work or they don't know you well enough to trust you yet. So we spent so much time on both the story and the video. So for the story, I not only followed Kickstarter's recommendations, but I found 5 Kickstarters whose campaigns I really liked the look of and I really liked the flow of, who seemed to do well. And I kind of modeled what I was doing off of what they were doing from how I structured it. And I ended up rearranging it several times, but originally from how I structured it to what parts I included, where I spent time explaining myself, and the graphics that we've included. And then I sent the story off. Oh, and then Joseph read it and he was like, "You wrote this in third person." And I was like, oops. And he rewrote it in the first person for me. And so then I sent it off to my mom. And the reason I sent it to her is because she doesn't use Kickstarter. She's 100% not familiar with Kickstarter. She has bought books for her children. She taught for 20 some odd years, and she taught reading for a while. So I was looking for somebody who was very different from who normally backs my stuff, but is still part of the audience that I want to reach. I want to reach parents, I want to reach teachers, I want to reach librarians, I want to reach grandparents. So I needed to get outside of like the comic box and the Kickstarter box. And she had, boy, she tore me up with the run-on sentences that I didn't write, that Joseph wrote. But that's okay. I appreciated it. I really needed to fix those. But she gave me a lot of really good suggestions about stuff I could include. Like, I did my thesis on how comics help with early literacy, and she had to remind me of that because it's been 10 years, and, you know, at the time I wrote my thesis, no one cared at all, and now everyone cares, and it's just like a tonal dissonance. But she had to remind me, like, hey, you need to put that in. That's really important. And you need to talk about your inspirations and how 7-Inch Kara is inspired both by classic children's literature and comics. You need to talk about that. So sending it to somebody who is like totally out of the box, totally out. Oh, and I should also say, when I sent it to my mom, it wasn't like, oh, you're so talented, Becca. Like, that has never been my mom. My mom is one of my harshest critics. If she likes something I do, that's impressive. And I don't mean that to be like, you know, my mom is so mean to me, but like, I think some of the other women in the audience might know what I'm talking about, where, you know, if your mom approves that it's actually legitimately decent, because they are the harshest on you because they want to see you succeed. So I sent it to her. I also sent it to my fiance's mom. She didn't get back to me, but that would have been really nice because that's additional outside the box feedback. And then I sent it to a group of beta readers. Some friends of mine who are artists, are fellow comic artists, or they back a lot of Kickstarters too, and I had them read through it and offer suggestions. And I also sent it to a couple of people who I'm friendly with who have had successful Kickstarters for suggestions. So I had a lot of eyes on the written part of it, and I mean, they gave me so many changes and so many revisions. So this is a trick I learned while I was in grad school. If you're getting critique, don't try to process any of it, just write it all down. And then, because if you're like me, your brain goes into overwhelm mode and then it shuts down. But if you have it written down, it doesn't matter if your brain goes into overwhelm mode because you have it all there. You're not trying to remember it. You're not going to take it as personally because writing it down helps you detach. And then you can come back to it when you've had a chance to kind of get over the feeling of like, everything I ever do is wrong. And you can be like, okay, I want to make this the best thing ever. And that's something else you need to consider. If you have a good critique group, if they genuinely want to see you succeed, everything they say is going to make your product better for the most part. You don't have to do it. You can be like, you know what, not that one, not this time, next time. But every point they're making is because they want to see you succeed. They want you to succeed. So don't take it like they're tearing you down. Don't take it like everything you ever do is wrong. This is polishing your work to get it to the next point so that people will find it and people will love it. So I know, especially people who maybe don't have a history with critique in groups or formal critique, tend to take critique that they themselves have asked for very personally and get defensive. Do not get defensive. Thank them for their time. Always try to find ways to show your gratitude because they're doing you a huge favor. Again, they want to see you succeed. They want to see the project succeed. So the fact that they're taking this time out of their day to help you with this is really important. So it took about a week like spending significant time working on the story, but I didn't like tape myself to the desk like I did with laying out the book. I would be working on other things and also editing at the same time. So like if I got tired of painting, I would work on editing the story. So I really recommend finding other projects in your category that you like how they're laid out, they seem to be doing really well, and modeling yourself off of that. And then if there's projects in other categories that you also like and that also do really well, you can borrow some of the things from that. But just keep in mind that, you know, if you're doing a comics project, comic Kickstarters are different from other types of Kickstarters. And that kind of brings in the next point. One of the ways they're really different is that with comic Kickstarters, if the comic is done, fulfillment is fairly straightforward. You're probably printing the book. You're probably shipping books. I know it's super tempting to have all the merch you've ever wanted to have that you can't justify at cons in your Kickstarter because it's been so tempting for me. There's so many things I want to make based on 7-Inch Kara now that I have an audience who's interested in those things. But the thing about that is those need to be stretch goals rather than base rewards because we're trying to raise a certain amount of money to print the book. And if I offer too many things, that's taking money away from printing the book. And you also have to keep in mind that a pretty big chunk of your Kickstarter earnings is going to shipping because, okay, so when you go down to the bottom and when you're making your rewards and you're deciding what, give me a sec, I'm so sorry guys. When you're making your rewards and you're talking about physical things, you need to calculate shipping. Sorry. In the US, you have access to media mail if you're shipping books, but you can only ship books and comics above like 4 pages with media mail. You can't ship charms, you can't ship correspondence, you can't ship, I don't know, phone cases, whatever else you want to do. That has to be shipped separately. So media mail is very affordable. It's like $4 to ship a 7-inch Kara, compared to like $8 or $10. But other countries don't have media mail, so like for me, I limited the countries I listed. I'm willing to add other countries if there's people who want, from those countries who want to back it and they know they're going to pay that price, and I'm willing to add it to that tier. But I needed to limit what countries I listed to what rewards, because you had not, Kickstarter. Not only do you have to calculate all of your shipping yourself, which means finding shipping calculators, which means finding accurate shipping calculators, and you would think for the fees that Kickstarter charges, they could have that built into the site, but they don't, and their editor also sucks. Sorry, Kickstarter, I like what you're doing, but there's some things you need to fix. And they don't have an undo button. So if you delete something you don't want to delete, you gotta like dig it up and re-upload it. Anyway, shipping. So you have to calculate shipping every time, and you can't just set it for an item for a country. Like volume 2 to Mexico is $15. You have to put it in every single time. So for someone like us with ADHD, that's a lot of doing, and it's a lot of math, and it's a lot of keeping organized. I would recommend, if you are comfortable with spreadsheets, do a spreadsheet. I did it all in Notepad because I haven't used spreadsheets since like high school, and I'm not comfortable with them, and I knew the frustration and the pain point would make it so much worse than just doing it the way I was comfortable with. So that's definitely a big one to consider, is physical rewards and calculating shipping and being accurate with shipping, and make sure you include the actual packaging materials you're going to use. Like if you want to do bubble wrap mailers, source bubble wrap mailers, find out how much it costs to buy them in bulk, like 50, and calculate that price in with your shipping, because I think that's one of those things we're probably pretty likely to forget, but it starts taking, so everything you don't account for in your Kickstarter, you are going to pay for that when you're fulfilling it. And if you're cool with that, that's fine, but that's money out of your pocket. So just keep that in mind when you're calculating stuff. And then the budget. So that's another one where Joseph really helped me out. Together we figured out the cost. So he'd contacted a bunch of printers a while back using volume 1 as the guide, because we didn't have an accurate page count for volume 2, and a lot of printers didn't bother to get back with us at all. But we have 10 printers who did get back to us, and most of them are in the US, which is kind of important to me. I'd like to work with a US based printer for a number of reasons, but you know, to also make sure that people in the US have paying work. And it was also important to me to work with an eco-friendly printer who could do full color, who was willing to do matte covers, etc., etc. So there's several things I was looking for. And he was able to get price quotes for the books in bulk. And when I say in bulk, I'm talking like 500 to 1,000 and then up. And I think we quit looking after 10,000, because as amazing as it would be to sell 10,000 copies of 7-inch Kara Volume 2, realistically, we're probably not going to do that. So having those quotes ahead of time means you can very easily start generating your budget and what it goes to. And you really, again, need to keep in mind how much shipping is going to eat into that budget. So I would recommend, if you're looking for examples, you go to my project, you scroll down to the budget part, and there's a pie chart there. So we generated the pie chart in Excel, and then I drew over it and made it look like my own. So it's a real pie chart with real percentages. I didn't just like make it up, and I just decorated it to better fit in with the rest of the Kickstarter to match the tone. I know it's also tempting to have like all of your stretch goals because you're super excited about them, but only show a few of your stretch goals. That way people don't get overwhelmed and they don't kind of miss the point of the Kickstarter, because I mean, it's important for you and them to keep the point of the Kickstarter, whatever you're doing. So for me, I have to keep reminding myself, like, this is for volume 2, this is for volume 2, this is for volume 2, be pushing volume 2, talk about volume 2, promote volume 2. So the video, it was really important to me to use all of the skills that I have that make me special. So when it comes to comics, my work doesn't really look like other people's, for better and for worse. and the kind of stories I want to tell are not the same kind of stories that are popular or that other people like to tell. I like quieter stories that involve family dynamics and involve relationships and have kind of slow burn tensions going on. And 7-Inch Kara doesn't even have any real romance to speak of. So there's a lot about my comic that doesn't make it an easy sell. So I wanted to lean in with the video with all the things I thought were the strong points. So I made these really cute paper children a while back. I've talked about these before. I made these really cute paper children a while back to promote it. I don't mind being on camera. I don't mind doing my own VO work. I don't mind writing. So we did a lot of physical effects. We did a lot of filming. I mean, it took 3 days to film the 5 seconds of that opening shot. We had 100 takes because it was really hard to get it without a car going down the driveway. That was in our own driveway. Without a car going down the driveway, without my neighbors leaving and slamming the doors and being super loud, because why do they care? They don't care. Or without like the equipment we were using malfunctioning, because we were using my phone, we were using a cheap Chinese gimbal, we were using a shotgun mic that you plug into my phone, and we kept having all these problems. So it took a lot of takes, but it was kind of fun. I really liked all the problem solving. I liked working together to make something that I think turned out really good. And it was just cool to do something creative with Joseph that wasn't like comic related, even though it was comic related. And I like physical effects. Like, I think bad physical effects are better than bad CG effects. So we have a lot of physical effects in there. Let's see if you guys can tell which ones are which. And I tried to work in Easter eggs of like hiding the paper children in the footage so that maybe you see them, to keep that like miniature theme going on. I tried to dress like a Lilliputian, or dress in a very fantasy or fairy tale kind of way. I always try to keep like the watercolor aspect and the nature aspects forefront. So like 90% of the shots were supposed to be inside, and every time I was like, can we do this outside? Can we do this outside? Can we involve some moss? Can we involve some grass? Can we do this outside? People like outside. I don't want them to see my beige box apartment. Can we do it outside? Because that is something that I feel like I really like being outside, and I love how lush and green nature is, and I grew up in South Louisiana where it's green like most of the year. So those nature themes are important to me, and I wanted to bring that into the project. And towards the end, we got most of the shots. We thought we were done, and then we found 2 shots we missed. And it was like the Thursday before we launched, right? And the video was edited except for those. And I almost cried. Like, I was so disappointed when I found out we had more shots to do, because I thought we were done. So I just had to like put on my big girl pants and be like, okay, we're gonna get this, and then it's done, and it wasn't so bad. So like, forgiving yourself for being ADHD and forgetting things, that's important too. And if you are one of the ADHD people who have like a really shiny, gregarious personality, use it. Use it, work with it. It's one of our strong points. Like, go with it, okay? The person side of some of us is sometimes what we got going for us, you know? So, Joseph edited the video. He's amazing. So, I actually have a Kickstarter blog that is only for Kickstarter backers and patrons. And I'm going to have him talk about the video in depth if you're more curious about how to make a video using a cell phone cam and Adobe Audition and Adobe Premiere. I'll have him talk about that because I know it's important, and having a nice video can really help a lot, especially if you're trying to convince people who are new to your work to give it a shot. So, checklists. The planner you guys see me talk about all the time, it was totally full. I could have definitely had a bigger planner. I also want to show you guys something that I made. So I am a calendar gal, as you guys probably know from my life with ADHD videos, even though I'm not a planner person at all. So what I did is I made Kickstarter calendars for the month that it was in, and I have everything color-coded with highlighters and marked out. So there's one for July, and then taped to the other side is one for August, and it's also got events that I've planned to promote the Kickstarter marked in here. And this is particularly important because Joseph and I leave for Louisiana on Thursday because we're getting married on the 27th, and I've got my Kickstarter going on while I'm getting married, because that is truly peak ADHD life, is can I cram all of the events into one mega event and just get it all done? It's gonna really, really suck for 3 weeks, but then it'll be all finished. We'll see how that works. My other rationale is that the Kickstarter fails, at least we'll have gotten married, so I'll still be happy. But it's hopefully not going to fail, right, guys? Anyway, something else that was super important for me is Joseph used script writing software to write the script for the video, and he was just trying to get some ideas down because it's easier to rewrite than it is to write. And I printed it out because I like things physical in my hands to hold them. And I marked it up. I used stamps to denote where shots are taking place. I used a highlighter to denote like the environment so I could tell at a glance. I rewrote it. I marked which voiceovers are which for when I recorded them. And I also rewrote a bunch of the voiceovers. So finding a way to accomplish the script or accomplish your narration. Like, don't think you're going to do it off the cuff. You might, you really might, but you probably won't, and I wouldn't count on doing it off the cuff. Okay, so we have talked about a lot of the behind the scenes nuts and bolts. So let's talk about the launch. I wanted to launch on the same day I had a live stream because I've been doing these weekly live streams off and on for a while. I started doing them again when COVID started and I was back in Nashville, so I've been doing it for like 3 months again. And I wanted it to coincide with that. And originally I wanted to have a launch party at Plaza, the local art supply store where I used to teach, and I was going to invite the public and I was going to have food, but COVID. So instead I had a virtual launch party here on YouTube. And that was interesting, okay? So half the audience were super awesome people who are usually familiar with my work, and they knew what was going on, and they knew the sketch requests were only for people who actually backed the project, because I mentioned that in all of the promotional material. I felt like I was very clear that the sketch requests were only for backers. But I had some new friends come in for their first time with a stream who did not realize that this was to celebrate the launch of the comic. I don't know how y'all missed that, but y'all did. And had a problem with me basically running it like a telethon, which is kind of like, this might not have been your stream. And then I also had a couple people who tried to sneak in sketch requests, even though they didn't back. So, you know, that's just something to be expected. People don't read. People don't always pay attention to all the information. And to be real, sometimes people will try to get something for nothing. So I just kind of rolled with it. I had Joseph reading the names of the backers to me so I could fill the request, but there was some confusion there, and I ended up filling some for people who did not back, so they got a freebie, hey. But I wouldn't necessarily do it differently given the exact same circumstances. Like I said, I would have loved to have had like an in-person launch party physically somewhere to physically celebrate 6 years of painting finally coming to something. I like parties too, and I like celebrations, and I like feeding people, but that wasn't feasible, so we went with the best thing we had at the time with the circumstances. And there was a lot of preparation that actually went into that stream. I bought pajamas specifically for that stream because it was a pajama party. I thought doing a theme party would help make it more special and also help make it like clear that this is a specific thing and not your usual weekly stream. I mean, people were welcome to come hang out and chat. It was just the like complaining that I was talking about my project in a stream about my project was kind of like, you know, adults can brag about things they've done. We're allowed to do that. We should do that because we work real hard and then we never talk about it because we're shamed out of it. So I am currently in promotion mode, which is kind of weird because as an ADHD person, I don't want to annoy people by talking about myself too much. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. But it's also super important to talk about it, and you would also be shocked by how many people legit miss, like when I was teaching classes in Louisiana, I was talking about it non-stop the 2 weeks before I taught it, and I still had people who were like, oh, if I'd known you were in Louisiana, I would have come. So it's really important to try and get the word out as much as possible, to ask friends to signal boost, to ask family to signal boost, to incentivize signal boosting. Like, I've got a giveaway going on right now where if you help promote 7-Inch Carol on Kickstarter and you tag me, I will send you this super cute paper child printable pack so you can make your own like these. Half of them are uncolored, so you can color them yourself if you want. Half of them are colored in case you just want to put them together, or you're looking for like a fun activity to do with your kids, or you just want to kind of get the hang of this. And then there's also 2 videos on how to do it. So yeah, that's a thing that's going on at Natto Soup. But I'm trying to find different ways to promote my stuff, and I'm also trying to reach outside the comic community to promote, because I do a lot of watercolor, so maybe I'd be a good fit with the watercolor community. And I do a lot of kidlit stuff, so maybe I would be a good fit with librarians and parents. So I'm trying to do that, and that's always like hit or miss for me, you know. I've tried to do cross-promotional stuff in the past and gotten shot down by people who don't like comics, or they don't like me. So, and I quit doing that for a while. I quit putting myself out there for a while because, like, I just didn't have the emotional reserves to deal with a lot of rejection, because I can deal with a no. I don't like getting a no and your art sucks, or a no and I don't like you, and a no and I don't like comics, or a no and comics aren't art, or a no, comics aren't literature, you know what I mean? The no, it's fine, y'all can leave it at no. So it took like a lot of work to start feeling confident enough to reach back out to people. And thanks to our hard work with the video and with the story, and thanks to the generosity and the support of people who backed on day 1 and day 2, 7-Inch Carol Volume 2 was picked as a project Kickstarter loves, which kind of boosted my confidence to reach out to people and be like, hey, can we work something out? And I'm still waiting to hear from them, but just that little shot in the arm of like, hey, we like this project, it's pretty cool, gave me the confidence to start reaching out to people again. So I am sure there are ADHD people who are watching this who have kickstarted a project of some sort, and like literally everything I've said has not been their experience. They had no problems with the story, they had no problems with the video, or their video was one shot on a camera, them talking to it like I'm talking to y'all, and their project did bonkers good. Or they have no followers and they still backed at a huge amount of success, or they have a bunch of followers and they back to nothing. You know, it's a your mileage may vary situation. That's why these are vlogs and not how to. I'm just sharing my experiences. But I'm trying not to play the F5 game where I constantly refresh the page. I'm trying to limit myself to only checking twice a day. I'm also trying to find ways to use my talents and what I already do to promote the project and help get people more engaged, which also includes a vlog like this one. But I do think it's going to be helpful, because honestly, I've been kind of surprised by how many people have liked like my con prep videos in the My Life with ADHD series, or like the planning a comic part of the My Life with ADHD series. So hopefully this will be helpful for you. So I had a lot of help with this. My partner has worked before as a project manager. He doesn't like it, but he's managed projects before. So he has a lot of like strong project management skills that he applied to this. And I fought him on it. Like he was real big on like, we're going to use Trello and check the Trello and it's all in Trello. And I'd be like, okay, what are we working on today? I don't know, check the Trello. So, you know, maybe that's not how I would have wanted it. Like, I would have liked a morning, like, run through of, like, these are the shots we need to get today. Let's go do it. But, you know what? Like, I'm really fortunate to have somebody working with me with this who has such good project management skills. So I'm not actually complaining. I'm just saying, like, you might use Trello. And if you don't know what Trello is, it's Trello. It's like a website. It's kind of like a vision board, right? Except you can stack, it's for tasks, and you can put in images. And so if you want to make it a vision board, you totally can. And you can put dates, and you can set reminders, and you can use it to make lists, and you can tag it. And I used to use it when we hired someone to edit video for me. To help both of us stay organized. So it is a good tool. I just like having written out physical things in my planner more than I like going to a website. I think it's because I always have like a million tabs. And then I have like 5 windows and each of them have a million tabs. So I don't like website-based stuff because it's like overwhelming. So, I feel like I'm sure I'm missing stuff. And a lot of it's going to get covered in the Kickstarter and Patreon exclusive blog. So if you're interested in the nuts and bolts of running a Kickstarter, if you're interested in the nuts and bolts of running or printing a book, you can back at the $3 level and you'll get access to that. It does take a lot of work to write and make something like that, and I've given the Nata Soup Studio blog away for years, and I give these videos away, so I feel no guilt making it Patreon and Kickstarter exclusive because it's $3, and it also goes towards helping to print volume 2. So, no guilt at all. But anyway, if you are running a Kickstarter campaign, try to have a lot of events planned to help keep momentum up. Try to have stuff planned to reward people for promoting your stuff, but in a way that doesn't cost you a bunch of money. And just be very, very grateful every step of the way to the people who have supported you and who have backed you and who are cheering you on, because it is not possible without them. You can't do it without them. If you alienate them, you can't do it. You're gonna fail, because so much of this is based on community and goodwill and being a good participant. And I say that as someone who's backed a bunch of projects. Like I've paid my money to get their books, and I've had creators be rude to me, or I've picked them up at cons and had creators be rude to me, or they are not honest about their shipping times and it's delayed by like multiple years. And so you gotta foster as much goodwill as possible, because you gotta think most of the people who are backing your campaign, who are paying this money, they want to see you succeed. They want the product, yeah, but they could go to a store and buy a product. They want to see you succeed. So if you're honest with them, if you're transparent with them, if you tell them what you know, then they are going to be more appreciative of it. I know as a backer, I don't mind delays if you tell me there's a delay. I don't mind delays if you tell me why. If it's out of your hands, just say it's out of my hands, my printer, da-da-da-da-da. Especially if you don't want to throw them under the bus publicly. You can do that privately. And I say that because as a comic artist, I always want to know the hiccups in someone else's manufacturing process, because it gives me an idea of what I'm looking out for when I'm doing it. So there was this big project I was a participant in and a backer, 1001 Nights, and they had a million delays. And I really wanted them to talk about those delays, because that was when we first were researching printers for volume 2. And I was kind of thinking about going hardcover, and I was kind of thinking of printing in China, and I really kind of liked the idea of including a ribbon. And those were all things that 1001 Nights was doing. And I was really hoping the organizers would be more transparent about the process and talk about who they were working with and the problems that popped up and the storage issues that popped up, because those are all things people can learn from. And to me, it doesn't make you seem less professional to talk about these learning processes. I know some people do, because they think you should know everything before you do it, which is not possible. But that's also why I have a blog for the Kickstarter, is I wanted to share that with people who want to know. So it's separate from the Kickstarter itself, because I don't want to inundate people who just want volume 2 with like a bunch of back-end information that they don't want. But I know I have a lot of comic artist friends who want to learn from that, and I wanted to make it available in a way that wasn't me just giving away more free stuff. So I feel like this was a very ADHD, my life with ADHD and Kickstarter. If you guys have any questions about it, let me know in the comments. I would be very open to running a stream, a Q&A stream about it, if you guys want to talk about it. I also want to point out that I was getting a lot of flack from my mom for doing the Kickstarter before the wedding. She was constantly like, you should have done this another time, this could wait. Kara has waited already for 2 years while life happened, while I was earning money through teaching and I didn't have time to work on it because I was creating lesson plans and buying class materials and doing all that stuff. Kara waited while I was doing a bunch of cons, trying to earn enough money to make ends meet. Kara waited when I was doing YouTube, to be frank. you know, so like if I keep putting it off, it won't happen. And honestly, with COVID, we thought we weren't going to be able to get married. And then it was like, oh yeah, sure you can. So really, the wedding is the Johnny come lately in this, and the Kickstarter was the thing we were going to do regardless. So it's been a lot. And would I do it this way again? I don't know, because we have to see how it pans out. Maybe I would like 100% do it again, get married and have a Kickstarter every time. We'll just renew our vows. Or maybe I'll be like, that was the worst decision ever. The internet, see, the big problem with all this, doing it at the same time, is I'm going to be in Louisiana, and I have no internet connection in Louisiana because Cox is the best, and AT&T is also awesome. So, and that's heavy sarcasm. And they refuse to fix their services in Southeast Louisiana because why? We get paid anyway. I've complained to both of them numerous times and they blow me off. So I'll complain here too. But it means I can't do streams. It means I can't upload video. It means I really struggle to update the blog. It means I feel like I'm kind of shackled. So that's the big pain point, is the internet access, not being busy. I can organize around being busy. I've been busy my whole life. I was going to doctor's appointments twice a week since I was like 12. They weren't mine, but I still had to go. So, busy is something I know how to do. No internet is something I struggle with. Anyway, I know I'm missing stuff. I'm sure you'll let me know in the comments. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this My Life with ADHD. Hopefully it was helpful and inspiring to you. I definitely think you can do it. You just need extra help. I think everybody needs help. Everybody needs friends. Everybody needs support. There's no shame in asking for support. There's no shame in you asking for help. Your project, your work is not less because you need people who are willing to cheerleader for you. You're not less of a creator because you need someone else in your life to handle the planning, or someone to give you like a checklist of what you're supposed to do for a Kickstarter, or you need someone to help you with the video, or you need someone to help you write the story, or you need help editing, or you're having trouble laying the book out, or you need someone to help you research things. You're not less because of that. Again, in traditional publishing, like 6 different people handle all that. And in self-publishing, you are handling almost all of it. I mean, Joseph and I, 2 people are handling the work of a publishing house. So you can definitely do it. I definitely do believe in you. I'm cheering you on. I want to see more ADHD people have success, and I want to see them have I want to see them out as ADHD and have success, whereas, and I am not at all belittling this, but there's a lot of people who have success and then they come out as having ADHD. I would love to see more people who have always known their ADHD or were diagnosed very young also have the same success, because I feel like we don't have as many success stories. So I'd like to see that. I want everyone to succeed, all the ADHD people to succeed, and the jelly arms. Yeah, anyway, that was My Life with ADHD about Kickstarter. I hope it was helpful, useful, and informative. If you enjoyed it and you would like to read a charming comic about a little girl with ADHD where it is not treated like a pejorative thing at all, and it is part of her selling point and part of her charm, please consider reading 7-Inch Kara. You can read the first 6 chapters for free at 7inchkara.com, and you can help support the publishing, the printing of Volume 2 on Kickstarter at 7inchkara.com/ Kickstarter. I will link everything in the below, and if you have questions and you hit me up after the Kickstarter is over, please do so in the paint box, and I will be more than happy to help you out. I'll have a link to the paint box, my art-centric Discord server, down in the description as well. So have a wonderful day, guys. I'll see you guys again really soon. Bye!